Well, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Take 5. It is Thursday, January 19th, 2011. And the next few days we are dealing with some hard teachings that Jesus had to the Pharisees and the lawyers. I like to say the religious, prideful leaders. That when you get that trifecta, you got some bad business. And so Jesus has to deal with these people, and he's pretty harsh with them. So I'm probably not going to be as harsh as he is. I'm going to try to keep it positive, but here we go. Luke chapter 11, verse 37. While Jesus was speaking, a Pharisee asked him to dine with him, so he went in and reclined at table. The Pharisee was astonished to see that he did not first wash before dinner. And the Lord said to him, "Now you Pharisees clean the outside of the cup and of the dish, but inside you are full of greed and wickedness. You fools, did not he who made the outside make the inside also? But give as alms those things that are written, those things that are within, and behold, everything is clean for you." Having a little trouble seeing today without my glasses. But here's the point. The Pharisees wanted to look good on the outside, so they would do all these washings and things before dinner. Jesus didn't do that. Now, they didn't have the hygiene practices back then like we do now, although I think it's good to wash before dinner. But the point is, what's going on the inside? And Jesus says, you guys, what you're full of is greed and wickedness. He says you need to give as alms those things are within. In other words, you need to get rid of some of your money, give it to the poor. See, that would challenge the greed. Now, how about you? How's your greed? Well, how much are you giving to the poor? How much are you tithing? How much are you willing to share? Look at that kind of stuff, and it'll tell you what's going on the inside. There's a very much a connection between your money and your heart. Jesus said that in another place, didn't he? Let's continue, verse 42. But woe to you Pharisees. Now watch this. These are the ones that are tithing good. Listen to this. For you tithe mint and rue and every herb, and neglect justice and the love of God. These you ought to have done without neglecting the others. Now here's where I get in trouble. And I talked about this in Matthew chapter 23. And what I've decided to do in 2012 is not get real specific and call out anybody. But let me just tell you, there's a lot of leaders. Let me plug my computer in before my battery dies. Alright, there's a lot of leaders that are real good at talking about tithing, and that themselves do a pretty good job at that. But they neglect justice and the love of God. And where I've seen a big gap, where we fall short of what God would want us to do, is in this area of justice. We have so lopsided our teaching on grace. We don't want anybody to feel condemned. We don't want anybody to feel left out or neglected or unwanted. We've gone so far to that extreme that we allow people to sin and to hurt other people and to re-victimize them. Let me give you a good example, because I know of several cases of this. Divorce is taught against all throughout Scripture. And yet as churches, we don't seem to care when one spouse decides to completely ignore Jesus' clear teaching and divorce their spouse. They've made their spouse a victim. They've made their children a victim. And there's no justice for any of these victims, because our churches are on so much on the grace side. Well, it's covered by grace, and we don't want to get into that, and we just leave that alone. Our preachers leave it alone. Our leaders leave it alone, except to sometimes re-victimize the victim, saying it's your fault and that kind of stuff. I mean, there's just no justice in these situations, and they're coming up over and over and over again. I know about a lot of them personally. I know a lot about them in other places. I've gotten emails and messages from a lot of you on this subject when I talk about it, and people don't seem to like it when I talk about it, but Jesus condemned the religious, prideful leaders because they neglected justice. Now, how about you? Are you just in the things you do? Are you just in the way you treat people? It's important. We got more of this kind of stuff, and I don't like it, but check it out. Come back tomorrow on the next edition of Take 5.